Hi everyone, Will Vincent with another one of our Pro Series 2013 interviews. This time we've got two people, both from Inex Racing, Isaac Price and Robin Friskopps. Now, I am going to start with you, Robin. You joined iRacing back in 2010. Kind of worked yourself up through the ranks, and then you made yourself a concerted effort to get yourself your pro license in 2013. You've done that. Now you're running in the iRacing.com Pro Series of Road Racing.
Yeah, like I joined iRacing back in 2010, but didn't really drive much at all. Like just trying it out, and it was real now when I did Formula 1 in A class, season 2. Where it's just now I really started with it because the for speed was kind of dying where I came from originally, and yeah. Now I'm here in Pro Series.
And how is that different from running other simulators? You mentioned Live for Speed to now running on iRacing.
Well, there's a lot of stuff in iRacing that's way different in Live for Speed. Like most like high leagues in Live for Speed, like what I'm used to racing in Live for Speed is mainly endurance racing and stuff like that, where you drive a team. While in iRacing is just there's no team. Like you don't share a car, you're just driving your own car always. And then it's also like the tires and stuff in the draft, like they're very different simulators, both of them. But they're both really good in their own ways.
And Isaac, as far as you go, you joined iRacing also in 2010. Now, you're running in the Pro Series, however, you're able to race up in 2 races in the 2013 iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series. So you've already got yourself a bit of a taste in the big league itself.
Yeah, well, I sort of had pretty much the same story as Robin, except that I got out a little bit sooner and went into the iRacing side of things, and it seemed like a good idea once I got the black stripe to then sort of try and get a bit of experience and a feel for what it'd be like in the real thing. So,
well, I mean, how was it actually running in the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series? Because you did make a pretty interesting name for yourself in the 2 races that you had. Just having a look, you had yourself 2 starts, and you finished in the top 15, the top half pretty much in both of your races.
yeah, well, I think the first race that I actually did, I was a bit sort of too nervous about it, and I didn't really relax properly and drive my own race. I struggled quite a lot. That was sort of a completely different experience to anything that I've had before. Like usually it might take, a couple of laps to get settled into a race, but that race, it was like the whole race I was a bit on edge and not comfortable really. And then sort of the second race, everything started to feel a bit more normal. I think that's pretty much the main difference between what I'm used to and that.
And you talk about, that first race being nervous, of course, running in arguably the biggest road racing sim league in the world. Is that going to be an advantage, presuming that you make the cut for the Pro Series and transition full-time into the WCS next season?
I think, to be honest, most of my nerves were down to the fact that because I was a pro driver, I was racing against guys who are trying to get top 25 in the series, whereas I was like just a pro racer, so I wasn't really on the same license level as them, and that sort of, I was a lot more nervous of ruining other people's races if I made a mistake or something, and that was sort of what I struggled with the most. I haven't really had that issue this season, but I think any sort of experience that you've got, it can help, because the whole format of the sort of the 2-lap quali and the Grand Prix length race, it's completely different to anything else outside of iRacing, really.
Now, when we talk about your Pro Series campaigns for the season, kind of contrasting, shall we say, Isaac, you are very solid at the moment, running yourself in the 4th position. In fact, with still a shot of taking the championship. Right now, as we're talking, only 21 points behind Alexei Usiakola, who is leading the way in the Pro Series. Robin, for yourself, you're kind of at the moment on the outside looking in with only 28 points from your 4 starts after some bad luck in the early part of this season. I'll start with you, Isaac, here. P4, in what I've been saying for weeks now, is possibly one of the most competitive Pro Series we've ever had. With, of course, yourself, Oli Pakala, Alexei Loma, Usiakola, but also the likes of Alex Simpson, Urabe, Rocco Baroni, all people who's made a name for themselves this year. How does it feel to be running so high up in the championship almost halfway through the season?
Well, the first 2 races I was pretty happy with because my pace wasn't that great in either of them, and they weren't perfect races, but I still sort of salvaged a good result out of both of them. But I felt sort of in the last 2 races that I haven't really taken what I should have out of it. Like at Interlagos, I collected Tommy Nilsson. He had a moment in front of me, and that sort of ruined my race. And there, I probably had pace to finish quite a comfortable 3rd if I could have, put down what I was capable of. Like at the end of the race, I had Ollie right behind me coming up to lap me, and I was able to sort of keep the gap once I'd passed people so that I was running in clean air. So I surely would have been able to sort of run just behind that group if I'd had the chance. And obviously last race at Road America, I was running right behind Ollie for the lead and sort of kamikazed my own race there, to be honest. So that should have, like, if I'd got what I should have in those 2 races, I'd have been much higher up. It's the same for everyone, obviously, but you can only really look at your own, what you could have got yourself, and judge it on that. I don't think it's because some weeks guys seem to do a better job on setup and stuff like that than others. So you just got to sort of look at your own performance and get the best out of that, I guess.
And Robin, right now, you've got yourself 28 points from your 4 races. You're currently, just having a look through the stats, a total of, 13 points outside the cutoff. But are you now approaching the season from a slightly different perspective, as you may have done from when you started your campaign, just trying to get yourself enough points to secure yourself into the top 25? Now, it's going to be an incredibly big long shot to get yourself into any form of championship contention.
Yeah, like the start of the season has been really disappointing for me since, like in first race I crashed out in the second turn. My second race I just went off myself by doing a big mistake. And at Interlagos I didn't even get to turn 1, so right now I'm basically just trying to salvage results. Like at Road America, I start from the pits just to be safe, to just be able to finish the race, and I'm happy that I managed to get a 9th place at least out of that, because then, yeah, I finally get some points that I need. And it also gave me a motivation boost, because I could have been higher if I started on the grid and if I had a good quality time, so it really makes me motivated to keep going in the season. So yeah, the championship contention is just like, I'm not aiming for really good positions, really. I'm just aiming to finish right now, for now at least, and I will see later in the season what my goal will be.
And does your mindset approaching a race change now, knowing the fact that you've perhaps got more work to do to secure your WCS license? So let's say, for example, when there is someone being really aggressive behind you, is it just a case of letting them pass? Or is it the sort of case that you might be a little bit, more aggressive with strategy, other options to try and get yourself those positions?
Well, of course I'm being more careful now that I don't want to take any chances, like at least not as much as before. So like if there's a really aggressive guy behind us dive bombing every corner, then yeah, it's probably best to just let him go if he's quicker than me, and it's just, yeah, it's a big risk of crashing. But yeah, just want to finish the race, so yeah, that's probably the best idea for me right now.
And kind of the same question in first always for you, Isaac. being 4th place in the championship, is it an opportunity for you to go to the championship? Are you thinking about going for that championship, or is that primary focus still, getting yourself that, WCS license for next year and then seeing what plays out for you?
Well, I feel like I should be able to sort of challenge and move forwards in a way, but I think the last couple of races have sort of made that a little bit more complicated because it sort of closed the whole field up. Like last race, I think none of the top 5 finished, so, and then obviously Alex won, so it brought him right back into contention where he wasn't before. I'm not really worried about whether I make it into the top 25 or not. I think that should obviously take care of itself. I'd like to have something to sort of show from the season, but I don't think, with the way that, at least the way the races have gone so far, it hasn't really been something I can think about to win overall. So, like, if Road America had gone a different way, like there, it was possible to get, top 2 for sure, possibly win if I could have got past Ollie. But, I mean, it seems like there's so many different variables that are outside of your control. I think, because all of the top guys have used their drop weeks now, so it's just going to be about sort of making sure I finish the races, even if I don't have a good pace or something like that, and just hoping that it's enough. I'm not really thinking about it directly, if that makes sense. I think
Yeah, kind of.
it's one of those things.
Now, we are coming to a number of tracks which, in my opinion at least, have always suited the NX drivers. Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, coming up this Saturday, is a track with many long straightaways, and you guys have historically been one of the fastest cars in a straight line. Then we're going to Phillip Island, again, a track with raw speed. We've also got Silverstone coming up later on the season, VIR, Suzuka, all tracks with very long straightaways and ample opportunity to really make good passes. Do you think that the second half of the season perhaps is better suited to you guys, and which tracks are you looking forward to, which tracks not so much?
Well, if I take it first, I don't know really. I think because I sort of ran my Road to Pro season sort of by myself while the other guys, the DWC guys, did their series. I don't think the way we necessarily set up the car is exactly the same, but before the season I would have agreed that I would have felt more confident with the second half of the season than the first half, but it doesn't seem to be following the exact same way this season as other seasons. Like in the past, I've always struggled at Road America, and I've been better at tracks like Interlagos and Circuit Villeneuve, or whatever it is exactly.
We
but
just call it Montreal.
Montreal, yeah, that's what everyone else calls it. So yeah, I've usually been better at that sort of track, but this season it seems to be a bit different. I'm not sure if it's sort of a weather condition sort of thing, or if it's just the build being a little bit different, or what. But I've seemed to have struggled more at that sort of track this season.
Self, Robin?
Yeah, like basically the tracks that I think I'm good at, and the tracks I like is basically spread all over the season. Like there's like mostly I'm better at the quicker tracks, like high speed tracks, and when I look at schedules, just like there's a few quick tracks and then there's a really slow one, a few quick, a few slow. Like it goes back and forth. So like first half versus the second half, that's like yeah, they're quite equal to me actually.
And you made a good point there, Isaac. Talking about the guys who are running in the WCS. Of course, now that the WCS is done, I'm presuming you guys get a lot of support from the established members, like team manager, also Sergio. How valuable is it to not necessarily have that mollycoddling input, but the support there when you need?
I think at some stages it can be helpful if you're sort of stuck in a certain. Sometimes because of one setting not being quite right or something like that, it can throw off everything else. And if you have someone who's got that experience looking at the set and stuff like that, they can sort of say, oh, well, that looks a bit wrong. But I don't think, at least this season, they haven't, you know, sort of gone out of their way and driven a lot of laps and stuff like that to sort of, you know, give us the exact perfect setup or something like that. But I mean, it's everyone sort of after DWC season are fairly sort of run down and need a bit of a break, I think. So I think that's pretty much the situation in our team. There is help there, but it's not sort of hands-on help. It's more sort of because we have a sort of a team chat sort of thing. They're obviously there still, and you could bounce ideas off them and stuff like that.
And you also alluded to another point about variable weather. Of course, that really is one of two big changes to the Williams FW31 over the course of the last 6 months. You've got the NTMV5, of course, now on the Williams, and you also, with that, have variable weather conditions. So, you know, wind direction, wind speed, race humidity, they all change from race to race, which is a completely new dimension from the Pro Series, which you guys didn't have to deal with in the Road to Pro. Does that affect the way that you approach things? Does it make it more difficult? Or is it just there's any other thing just to it?
I think it's like an extra factor to sort of think about, but I don't think it really changes the approach that much because you know what the conditions are well in advance. So by the time you just start practice with that condition instead of the default ones. So it makes sort of learning the tracks a bit interesting at first because you haven't got like the braking points are a little bit different to before and all that sort of thing, and maybe pressures, stuff like that can occasionally be a little different, but I mean, it's not really, it's just another thing to sort of consider, but it's not a big issue. At least I haven't found it to be a big issue, but I know that a lot of guys like on the forums and stuff like that have been struggling with it, so maybe that will be something that changes with more experience through the season.
Robin?
To me, with the variable weather, it's mostly, it takes more time to learn how the track is. Like if you have driven on track before, then you're gonna have to relearn it for a bit, like the braking points and all that kind of stuff. And then there's the wind that makes it so like you might have a headwind into a corner and you brake really late and you can have really much grip. And then you have tailwind into a corner and you just you have to brake way earlier, understeer or whatever happens to your car when you get a tailwind depending on your setup. So yeah, it really makes that stuff like a bit more complicated, setting up the car and stuff. But it's not really a huge issue. It's just you need to get used to it, and which doesn't take that much time. At least for me, it didn't do.
And almost forgotten. Final kind of question. In the presumption that you guys both make the WCS for next season, what would your targets, your aims, your ambitions be in this series?
Well, I think WCS is it's different to Pro in the way that it's a lot more, because there's obviously then you've got the guys in front of us lot as well. So like for me, I'd be more mid-pack rather than running sort of top 5. So it'd be a lot more about surviving each race and picking up points rather than, going for the good results. Because as well, it's a race every 2 weeks, so it's a lot more frustrating if you have a bad race and have to wait another 2 weeks to be able to sort of get a second go at it. So I'm not really exactly sure what to expect because there's a lot of good guys in the series. It almost depends on sort of the tire model, how much motivation people have, whether people enjoy it or don't enjoy it, and that. So it's kind of hard to set a goal for that. But I'm looking forward to it anyway.
Yeah, like Isaac says, right now it's really hard to set a goal or whatever, since you don't know how the car is gonna be, you don't really know like exactly how the competition is gonna be, and then you're just gonna be if you're doing good pace here right now in Pro Series, like you ain't gonna get the same positions in DWC because the competition is of course higher, and yeah, like it's too early right now to say like what to expect for DWC and stuff, but that's more like towards the end of the season, like when the season is beginning to come, then it's time to like, then you maybe can make an like set a target or whatever, but for now it's a bit early for that, in my opinion.
And before I let you go, are there any people, sponsors, inanimate objects who you'd like to say thank you to at all?
Well, thanks to our sponsor, simroom.com. I think that's pretty much it.
Yeah, thanks to our sponsor Simroom and our team for helping out on, well, for practice and stuff, which really helps a lot.
Well, thank you very much, Robin and Isaac, for that. Plenty more interviews coming your way in Glacier TV's run through the teams and drivers that makes up the 2013 Pro Series of Road Racing and the iRacing NASCAR Pro Series. We've got interviews coming up with Brian Blackford, Hammerdown Motorsports and Nexus Esports in the next couple of weeks on the oval side. And we have an interview with the guys from Apex Racing UK coming up on the road side as well. For more information about the iRacing Pro Series of Road Racing or the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series, head over to wcs.iracing.com. And for all your latest news, all things Glacier TV, head over to www.glaciertv.com. Myself, Will Vincent, Isaac Price, and Robin Friskopps from Inex Racing. We'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye.